When peace like a river attendeth my way, when sorrows like sea billows roll, whatever my lot that has taught me to say, it is well with my soul. There's the story of a man who was a lawyer that did really well for himself. In fact, he was also a really savvy businessman that it seemed like whatever he touched would end up prospering. As his practice continued to grow, he began investing in other businesses, and those businesses continued to grow and flourish and became very successful as well. He did this all with the intention of creating a stable life for his family. And to say that he accomplished that would be an understatement. This man was blessed to have a beautiful family. He had a wife named Anna who supported him every step of his journey. In fact, as business would take him to many different places throughout the country, she was always very supportive and encouraged him to continue to follow his dream. And also gave birth to 4 beautiful daughters, and she raised them in the ways of the Lord. This man was also a Bible-believing follower of Christ, and he devoted himself to the teachings of the church. In fact, he was an elder at his local Presbyterian church and best friends to a very popular evangelist at that time. He would often follow him on tours and contributed to help fund his ministry. My sin, oh the bliss of this glorious thought. My sin, not in part, but the whole, is nailed to the cross, and I bear it no more. Praise the Lord, O my soul. As this man's business continued to flourish, he began to buy up real estate at very, very quick pace. And in fact, at the tip of one of his clients, he consolidated a lot of his investments and began buying a large quantity of buildings on the coast of Lake Michigan. Now, this was a booming downtown, and it was flourishing, and these purchases were thought to have set him up for a very, very comfortable lifestyle. However, at 9 o'clock on October 8th, tragedy struck a small barn belonging to the O'Leary family. As a cow knocked over a lantern, a fire began and quickly engulfed this barn. It also traveled to the nearby structures, and because at this time period wood was a very predominant building material, in fact it accounted for about 2/3 of all building structures, the fire spread, eventually engulfing 1/3 of the city. Now it's interesting because the firefighters' response time was actually fairly quick. However, there was some misinformation that sent half of the firefighters to the wrong location. And if it wasn't for the severe drought conditions and a southwestern wind that blew the embers into the heart of the city, this small barn fire may have been put out relatively quickly. And yet, all of these factors combined created what was known as one of the largest fires in U.S. history. The Great Chicago Fire of 1871 burned for over 2 days and killed 300 people. In a city of 300,000 inhabitants, 100,000 were displaced. It destroyed 73 miles of roads, 120 miles of sidewalks, over 17,000 structures, and caused over $222 million of damage. Now, if you equate that in today's time, we're talking $4.5 trillion. But the Lord, 'tis for thee, for thy coming we wait. The sky, not the grave, is our goal. O trump of the angel, O voice of the Lord, blessed hope, blessed rest of my soul. The financial loss was devastating for Horatio and the Spafford family. Much of their investments had been tied into this downtown Chicago investment, and the stress began to take its toll on the family. And so, to try to ease Anna's mind of the loss and to help his great friend Dwight L. Moody on an evangelistic tour, Horatio planned a vacation to Europe, where they would take some time away from the chaos that was in the United States. At the last minute, Horatio was called back for a last-minute business deal. And so he sent his wife Anna and his 4 girls off to Europe and would later meet them up. And as he was wrapping up his affairs in Chicago and was preparing to follow the family over to England, he received a telegram that had 2 words on it that he would never forget for the rest of his life. Saved alone. You see, just 8 days after his family boarded that vessel, on November 22nd, the ship that had set off for England collided with another ship in the middle of the night. Within 12 minutes, that ship sunk, along with his 4 children, ages 11, 9, 7, and 2. By some miracle, Anna survived, but on that day, 226 passengers passed away. It was considered the worst naval ship disaster of its time up until the Titanic. So to say Horatio was devastated is an understatement. At one point he thought he had the world, he thought he had everything, and yet how quickly it was taken away from him. To some, he was considered the modern-day Job. And when he received the information, he quickly boarded a ship for England to comfort his grieving wife, who was now recovering from this tragedy. And it is said that as Spafford approached the very spot where it was thought the ship carrying his 4 daughters had sunk, he was inspired to write one of the most famous hymns that we continue to sing today. And Lord, haste the day when the faith shall be sight, the clouds be rolled back as a scroll, the trump shall resound, and the Lord's shall descend. Even so, it is well with my soul. I'm reminded of John chapter 16, verse 33. I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world. Now these words come from Jesus, and they are written as he is speaking to his disciples. These words come after Jesus has experienced some of his greatest times in his ministry. He has just been received in Jerusalem as a king. He is healing people. He has raised people from the dead. And his disciples think that there is nothing better because Jesus is on top of his ministry. The only thing going wrong is that he keeps talking about this betrayal thing. He keeps talking about how he's going to have to go away. I can just imagine what these disciples are thinking, because as they think they're on top of the world, Jesus knows that on this very night, he is going to be betrayed. And because Jesus was fully man, I'm sure that he's experiencing some human emotions like anxiety and stress. And yet he knows that his followers, people that they love, are going to lose their lives. But he wants them to know that in him, they may have peace. This peace, it's not something that we can earn for ourselves. It's not something that we obtain on our own. We can't go to a class. We can't read it in a book. It's only from God. It's because of God's Spirit fills us with love that we can't even comprehend, that we can be confident that Jesus overcame the world. So when you're hurting and when you're grieving, in the prosperous times and even in the midst of tragedy, where it's so devastating it hurts to even breathe, be reminded of the words of Horatio Spafford. It is well. It is well with my soul. Let's pray. Lord,